One of the important project elements is we've been having discussions with the Meyer Corporation to put together a program that would make them one of the first major retail chains in literally the world to be zero waste, where we would take the carbon, bale it and wrap it right out of the back of their stores and have it delivered to our plant. They're also interested in taking our ethanol through their E85 stations, as well as buying the green energy that we're going to produce. Project process. In November of 2008, we secured a firm funding commitment for $500 million. The funding agreement requires Ecosphere to secure permits and finalize power purchase contract, feedstock contracts, and a site. The cost to accomplish these tasks so that we can close on the $500 million is $6.2 million. We requested a short-term loan from MEDC to secure the $6.2 in December. In February, they noted that the noted project merits but indicated they were out of money. The offer we made to MEDC in exchange for providing the $6.2 million loan was we would pay 18% interest on that loan for a period of 12 to 18 months. That was if they could make
18%?
Yeah. Happy to do that. That was if they could approve it by the end of January. We also offered to, well, not offered, part of the deal is we would reimburse them from our construction funding for the loan plus the interest, again in 12 to 18 months from the time we took out the loan. And we offered to pay them a 5% profit share for the plant moving forward. The loan proceeds are only spent on costs that are approved for reimbursement by our funding partner, and MEDC was going to be offered the opportunity to act as the fiduciary agent to assure that all loan proceeds are directed to costs that are eligible for reimbursement. The technology, there is no technology risk for MEDC on this project because they will be repaid before the project is built out of the construction money, the first disbursement out of the construction money. The accounting and engineering audits are funded by the money to assure both technical and fiduciary oversight throughout the project.
Before you go any further, let me understand here, because I am apparently missing something. Pay MEDC 18% interest.
Yes.
The LIBOR rate is what today?
LIBOR rate with points, our commercial rate would have been around 15% if we went out and borrowed it commercially.
Okay.
For this money. You got to remember, this is coming on the heels of everything that went down in October and November and so forth. But commercial rate would have been about 15%, and we offered the 18% because the difference between 15 and 18% over 12 to 18 months is not a lot of money. And second, we wanted a decision by January so that we could keep our original project schedule.
You see, there's no technology risk.
No.
Risk is always something to be considered in a loan arrangement.
Yeah, the technology risk has been assumed by the funding partner, and this loan is repaid before you start construction out of the construction money.
The feedstock is basically waste material.
Yes.
Michigan has been a net importer of out-of-state waste. This was going to be something that Myers, a home base, was going to use, and they were going to use green technology and utilize E85, and I guess I didn't miss something.
Not a thing.
And they said no. They had no money.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Again, some of the impacts of the utilization of our technology, 80 to 85% of all solid waste could be carbonaceous feedstock. Sewage sludge, again, carbon feedstock. The CO2 from Michigan's largest coal-fired power plant located in Monroe County, if the plant's expanded to handle that just as a exercise right now, would allow us to produce about 10.5 billion gallons of ethanol a year from the CO2 coming out of the back of the power plant.
Billion with a B.
Yes. Certainly that would go a long way towards reducing Michigan's dependence on imported oil. The cost of a plant like that's between $25 and $30 billion, so it would take a while to get it built, but that would be later phases to come. It would certainly create some jobs for the residents of the area. I couldn't even begin to count, initially we're looking at a phase one starting with 50 to 60 jobs and expanding as the plan expands. It would go a long way towards reducing Michigan's overall carbon footprint, and it would certainly put Michigan at the forefront of many environmental and energy issues. Some of the project-specific elements, as I said, phase one, we were looking at 50 family wage jobs. The expansion phases would top 200, and if we actually came to terms with something like the Monroe plant, the jobs would go much higher. It'd be the first project in the U.S. to use the combined technologies, although we're looking at projects in Florida. We have agreements for a project in Florida. And it would establish the first major non-agriculture-based renewable liquid fuel center in the U.S. My request to the state of Michigan in coming here is to try to provide funding to MEDC to allow them to make the requested loan for pre-development funding, to allocate the technical resources for a timely review of permit applications when the time comes, to expedite consideration and or support for any interconnection issues. I understand there's a bit of a backup with MISO, and the state has the political ability to weigh in and encourage them to resolve interconnection issues. And the continued support of policies and legislation that would allow Meyer and companies like Meyer to purchase green electricity. That's the total of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, I'll begin by asking, are there members of the committee that have questions for the gentleman? Chair recognizes
Do we have
Senator
any
O'Sullivan.
cards opposing this?
Pardon?
Do we have any cards in opposition to this?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily opened it up to anybody, but I don't think anybody's going to stand up and raise any objections in this forum, but
That's fine, thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator Richardville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, thank you for being here today, and I know you've got some other team members here too. Maybe we can introduce them in a minute, but how much electricity are we talking about that could be produced here?
We're looking at, for the first phase, taking 85 megawatts to grid. We will actually produce closer to 100 megawatts, but use about 15 or so for our internal uses.
Okay. What about ethanol?